QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Fixed asset items, fixed asset chart of accounts. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are on the desktop. We can open up our QBW file either first by opening up the program, then the file within it, or double clicking on the QBW file, which we will do this time. So I'm going to double click on the file. It should then open up the QuickBooks program and the data file within it. Here we are in our fixed asset practice file. We currently have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by going to the view dropdown, selecting the open windows list. Now, first thing I want to take a look at is going to be the chart of accounts. Not everyone has the option to really clean this up from the beginning. So if you're taking over like another QuickBooks account, or if you're moving, which is typically the case, obviously most people aren't starting basically from scratch. You could still apply some of these principles if you're doing that. But if you are starting from scratch and you start to think about how am I going to record the fixed assets, then you might first want to think about your chart of accounts and lining that up to what you think will be happening with regards to the calculation of depreciation, often done with tax software by a CPA firm or tax firm. So if you look at those differentiation of duties, which basically you have to have no matter what type of system you're using typically, then, and even if you're doing the taxes yourself, you're probably still going to separate the software duties. So then we can think about, it'll make it easier if we think about that first. So I'm going to go first then to the lists drop down, the chart of accounts. So here we have our chart of accounts. We're focusing in on the fixed assets where we just have two accounts, one being the furniture and equipment, the other being the accumulated depreciation. So then I would think about, well, how am I, when I add the fixed asset accounts, I know that I have to, anything that's over a certain dollar amount, I need to be adding to the fixed assets, but I also want to make it as easy as possible for me to track those, to give that information to the tax preparer at the end of the year, and I wanted to make it as easy as possible for them to give me the information to record the adjusting entries related to the accumulated depreciation. The way to do that is to try to group your fixed assets in the same way that they'll be grouped on the depreciation schedules you might be getting from outside software, such as tax software. So you might ask your tax professional or look at the prior tax return if you're taking over another system and see how the fixed assets are being grouped on the depreciation schedules. Whether you're using tax depreciation or book depreciation, tax software will often allow you to do that. So it might look something like this, and you'll see that the depreciation is calculated in terms of the cost, and then the depreciation to the right, we're really focused just on the cost here. And these items, I'd like to be able to line up my items to agree with these items so that when I tell the tax preparer to enter the data, they can kind of line it up in the same fashion, and they know where it's gonna go. And then when they give me the depreciation, I can apply the depreciation per category here and do my adjusting entries basically per category. So the categories, the main categories that you might see in tax software, I'm looking at Lacert tax software, which is owned by Intuit. That's a larger software. They also have TurboTax, but these are the categories. So this is if this was what I was using for tax software, I would try to line up QuickBooks to agree with this, which would be automobiles and transportation and equipment, furniture and fixture, machinery and equipment, buildings, improvements, and land. That's what I'd set up for my chart of accounts. Now, I might not be using all of these. Maybe I only need a few of them. Maybe I only need automobile, furniture, and fixture, and machinery or something. Maybe I don't have a building or improvements or land. But you might want to set them up. If you don't use them, you don't use them. They won't show up on your balance sheet unless you have activity within them. So that's the first thing you want to kind of think about. And we'll set up here. We'll set up those accounts to line up to the general overarching accounts on the tax software. Then you want to think about the depreciation. Now, the accumulated depreciation, they only gave us one account for it. Do I want to calculate the accumulated depreciation for all categories? For example, all of these categories in one accumulated depreciation account? Or do I want to, which is more traditional, break it out, which is also a little bit more difficult, but break it out by category, which would be these categories, which would give me the book value per category. So if you think about how you're going to record the accumulated depreciation and you get a schedule like this, you could break it out per category, the depreciation per category, or you could just take the total accumulated depreciation, record one transaction. It's more kind of traditional to do it by category, so I'm going to set it up by category. It's a little bit more difficult to do that as well, so that'll give us kind of an example of it. So then the next thing we want to consider, well, if I do it by by category, notice I kind of have this issue with, like, if they're all in the fixed assets and I do not have account numbers, they're going to be lined up with the accumulated depreciation on top. And that's kind of, what's going to be the order, in other words, of these categories if they're in the fixed assets, because it's just going to line them up by alphabetical order. One way you could solve that is use account numbers to help line them up. And the other way, if you don't want to use account numbers, is subcategories, so that we can at least put the groups in the proper format. All right, so let's do some of this. I'm gonna first say that we want to put these categories in place. So let's add these accounts, and then we'll be posting to those accounts. So I'm gonna say we're just gonna have a new account. I'm just gonna add these accounts as we go, and we'll say that we want the fixed assets for major purchases account, and I'd like one to be called the automobile. So I'm gonna call it automobile and transportation equipment. Then I'm not going to deal with the sub accounts now. We'll think about that next time. Next one, I'm going to say save and close. And so there we have it. Notice that one went on top because I had a hiccup there. It starts with an A, so that's why it went on top, because it's in alphabetical order within the fixed assets. Let's change this one. I'm going to adjust the name for that. Instead of furniture and equipment, I'm going to call it furniture and fixtures. So I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to edit that one. Edit the account, and I'd like to call this furniture and fixture. So let's change that name. I'm going to save that one, and then I'm going to set up another one for machinery and equipment, because that's the other category that lines up to our tax software. So I'm going to say new. It's going to be a fixed asset type of account, and continue. And this is going to be for the machinery and equipment, and save and close. And then we have the building next. So I'm going to say building is next. So drop down. We don't have a building yet, but I hope to purchase one at some point. So I'm going to put it in here. And then we're going to say building. And it starts with a B. Didn't copy the B. So there we go. Building. Okay, buildings. And then we have improvements is going to be the next one. So improvements. So I'm going to say new item, and then I'm going to go fixed assets, continue, and this one will be improvements, and I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to set up the last one, which is land. I'm going to say new, and we'll set up fixed asset, and this one's going to be land. I could type that one out because it's a short word, and I won't misspell that one. Got that one for sure. All right, so there we have it. Now it's lined up here within the fixed assets in basically the alphabetical order. So it's still accumulated depreciation on top. Now you could leave it like this and then record all your accumulated depreciation to this one account, or you could basically make sub-accounts for the accumulated depreciation. You can also order these with account numbers. Now if you wanted to turn on the account numbers, you would then go to the edit, preferences, and then I'm going to go to the accounting. And then you could go to the account numbers here. I'm going to do it without account numbers now with sub-accounts, because many people, when they take over a file, it might not have the account numbers on it. So we don't need the account numbers, but they can make it easier for you to make that adjustment. So I'm going to close this back out. And so next, what I would like to do is make an accumulated depreciation for each of these categories. So I'm going to make an accumulated depreciation for the automobile and whatnot. So let's adjust this one first. So I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to edit that account. And then this is going to be accumulated depreciation. So I will abbreviate it because I only have so much room. I call it ACC Depre, and this is going to be for auto. I'll abbreviate this here, and then I'll say save and close. And then I'm going to make another one. I'm going to say that we want a new one, and this is going to be a fixed asset type of account, continue. I'm going to call it then ACC Depre for furniture. We could type that out. Okay, save and close. And then I'm going to say drop down new, and this is going to be fixed asset, continue. And then I'm going to say this is going to be ACC Depre for machinery. I'll just keep it at that, or maybe say and equip like that, and then I'll say save and close. And then another one, I'll say new, and this is going to be a fixed asset, continue. This is going to be ACC depre for buildings. And one more, we're going to say new, and this is going to be a fixed asset account. And this is going to be for ACC depre for land, for improvements. Improvements. And so I'm going to save that. So now we have these, but they're all out of order with the accumulated depreciation on top. Now, one way we can deal with this is to have the sub accounts. So to have a sub account, I could put the accumulated depreciation as the sub account of basically a, the parent account, or I can create another account and put both of them as sub accounts. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to all of these accumulated depreciations. I'm going to make them sub accounts of these parent accounts here. So I'm going to go back into the building, right click on it, and we're going to say edit account. And so I'm going to make this a sub account of building. So sub account of building, save and close. So now we've got building, and then that's the sub account. Same here. I'm going to right click and edit this account. I'm going to make this a sub account of the furniture and fixtures. There we have that. Save and close. I'm going to make this one a sub account. Right click, edit the account, and we'll make this a sub account of the machinery. So I'm going to say save and close. And so there we have those. I'll do the same for this one. I'm going to say edit the account for the improvements. I'm going to make this a sub account of the improvements account, and then save and close. And then we're going to go to the last one is the auto. Right click on that one, edit, and I'm going to make this the sub account of the automobile and transportation, and save and close. So there we have it. So now we've got our parent accounts that we can put to, and then our sub accounts, and we can kind of test what this will look like. Now note we don't have a sub account for land because it's not depreciated, so it is what it is. And let's just test one thing out here. Let's put a transaction into these accounts and see what it'll look like, and then I'll delete it. So if I went, for example, to auto expense here, or to the auto I'm going to say 01-15-21. We'll do this in 2021, and I'm going to say that there's, let's say, 20,000 here, and then the other side of the account I'm going to say is going to go to we're going to set up a new account. This is going to be our checking account, bank account. I'm going to call it checking account, and then say save. Let's record that. And then let's record something to the accumulated depreciation. Double clicking on the accumulated depreciation, and I'm going to say this is going to be depreciation. Well, let's call it. And it's kind of difficult to know if this is an increase or decrease because it's a contra asset account. I'm going to say decrease for now. I'm just going to say 5,000 and see which way it goes. And then the other side is going to be depreciation expense. So then I'm going to say record that. And then let's just take a look at what happens on the balance sheet. Reports drop down, company and financial, balance sheet standard. And then we'll see this as of 12/31/21. And we have then, notice it gives us our nice little drop down. So even though this category drop down is actually this account, right? But it still gives us the drop down of the two categories down here. And this second one, they said other. So notice you could make, in other words, a parent category called automobiles and transportation, and then put these two underneath it. We didn't do that. We're just recording everything to the parent account of the 20 here, and then we've made this one the sub account of it. And it still kind of works because you will then have everything that goes into the automobile, which is the only other category, in other. So that's the least amount of accounts that you can use to basically make this transaction work. I'm going to delete these two transactions now, and we'll continue on and add the transactions as we going forward. So I'm going to go back into, let's go back into double clicking on this fixed asset account, and I'm going to right click on it and delete delete the journal entry and say OK. And then this one, I'm going to right click on that journal entry and delete the journal entry and say OK. So now we don't have anything involved here. If I go then to the reports drop down, company and financial and balance sheet, and then say this is as of 12/31/21. So nothing's in there thus far. If I go back to the chart of accounts, we just set up our formatting. So next time, now when we get our property, plants, and equipment, we just need to basically put them into the proper category. Now note, again, this doesn't line up to the category as they might be seen in your schedule, because it might be in a different order, like if you got your depreciation schedule from the tax software like this. But you cannot adjust the order unless the main way you could do it with account numbers. So we won't do the account numbers now, but we can at least group together the accumulated depreciation to the proper fixed asset account. The other thing you could consider is down below the depreciation expense. That's the other question we have. Do we want to record everything to simply one depreciation expense, or do we need to break them out by category? You can choose either one here. I think it's less important to really do the depreciation expense by category. I like to see the book value up here on the balance sheet. But so you have that option as well. It takes more time to break out multiple depreciation accounts, but you can do that as well down below depreciation by category.